Hey everybody, it's Mr. Favik here, and it's Movember, as you can tell with the sweet mustache. But let's talk about microbiology today, and we're going to talk about the diversity of what's out there. So really, we're going to talk about all these gross things that could be crawling all over us and getting us sick. So I want you to think about the last time you were sick, and maybe was it a virus, a bacteria, or something else that maybe caused that. So let's look at our learning targets for today. So today, by the end, you'll be able to compare and contrast between a virus, a prokaryote, and a eukaryote, and be able to draw and explain an example of each. Okay, so when I say that, I mean virus, bacteria, plant, animal, what's the same, what's different between them all. Can you categorize them into prokaryote or eukaryote? So let's go through our first one, which is, what is a virus? So this picture here I really like because it really tells us the size comparison of what a virus is compared to a red blood cell or maybe even a bacteria cell. And if you notice, they are a lot smaller. So they're a microscopic particle that infects a living cell and often destroys it. So they'll actually invade the cell, and they use the cell's resources to make copies of itself. And so by that, ultimately, they're going to destroy the cell. So that's why we associate viruses with being sick, because we're getting diseases or illnesses. And these can be seen in plants, animal, and bacteria because they are so small they can fit in there. And they are smaller than cells. 5 billion virus particles can fit into one droplet of blood. So think about, if you can fit that many into one, you're making a lot of copies if you are infecting that size of a cell. So let's go through some shapes. So what makes them unique is that we have 4 different shapes. So like the first shape that you might want to draw in your notes and kind of have an example of is a spherical shape. And so this sphere, and you can see there's like all these little things sticking off of it. That's a protein coat that helps infect the cell. And so that's why certain viruses are really unique to species. So like the flu and HIV, we talk about swine flu and all that. Over time, these viruses can slightly change, and that's how we can start to get illnesses as well. But they won't invade us unless they can match our protein code and get into our cell membrane that way. So the flu and HIV, that's a spherical shape. A very famous one of the ones that we first researched about viruses and gave us the name virus, which means little poison, is a helical shape. So it's just like a helix, just like DNA. It just kind of rounds up those proteins. And the tobacco mosaic virus, which has a really cool look to it. You can see a healthy one or a healthy tobacco leaf, and then we have one that's infected. And this was a huge problem, especially if you're in an agricultural community that grows this. Because it is a major cash crop. And so if this is happening to your plants, and this, other plant viruses as well for farmers that may affect their fruits or their vegetables, you're going to see this non-healthy or non-appetizing material. And so that can cause you to lose some money. And so this is one of the reasons why viruses are so important. I like this one. This one looks like a spaceship to me. It's called bacteriophage. And this was a really unique one. Same idea. It's infecting cells, making other little monsters. And then we have an animal virus structure that's very common, is this crystal shape. And I like to say crystal, it's mainly the common cold. Another one is viral pink eye. So you can kind of see in the picture, that pink eye or conjunctivitis causes it to be red. The weird thing about pink eye, too, is it can either be viral, like you see in the picture, where it's mainly kind of that just dark red, it's starting to water often, or, as we'll see later, it could be bacterial, and if it's bacterial, it looks really disgusting. If you don't believe me, Google some pictures. But remember, there's just some things you can't un-Google. And so let's think about the last one that we should really be concerned about, obviously, is what is the zombie virus then, right? This is something that, as we look into these TV shows like The Walking Dead, what's causing it? And if you ever see that show, when they go to the CDC or the Center of Disease Control, they have this struggle of what's causing this. So Interesting stuff. So here's the interesting thing also about viruses. Are they living or are they non-living? Because they have DNA and RNA and can evolve and change because you're the environment that they can change in. Or are they non-living because they require a host cell to live, so they can't do anything unless they have a host cell. They don't use or obtain any energy, and there's no growth and development. They're purely just these little machines going in and destroying the host cell. So it's an interesting debate. You decide. I'm probably leaning towards the non-living side. I think that makes a little bit more sense when we think about characteristics of life. So these cells look similar, yes? They should. We have our classic eukaryotic cell and what are called prokaryotic cells. So pro means before and eu means new. And so we have before nucleus and now we have new nucleus, okay? So we're looking at this idea between comparing and contrasting that there's very similar parts. However, prokaryotic cells are very simple in nature and they do not contain an actual nucleus. If it was me, I might draw this picture down right next to each other just so we can compare and contrast. Or if you already have an animal cell drawing, this might be something you might want to draw within your notes because this is a very classic example of what a bacteria cell looks like. They have their flagella, they have free-floating ribosomes, they have an area of where they have DNA, but then they have these cool layers. They have their plasma membrane or cell membrane, they have a cell wall, and they have this slime layer and all these little hairs called pili or cilia that can be growing off them as well. So if it was me, again, I would draw this picture. So comparing and contrasting prokaryote and eukaryote again. Prokaryotes, like we saw in the picture, have less organelles in general. They're single-celled organisms, so they're very, very small. And mainly we see them as bacteria. Eukaryotics are like you and me, okay? So that's kind of a way to remember it. You are a eukaryotic. They can be single-celled or multicellular, or having many cells. The big characteristic that you want to star and underline is they have a nucleus. So things that would have a eukaryotic cell would be like plants, animal, fish, dog, cat, fungus. You could throw it all in there. We see a lot of different cells. However, there is a lot more prokaryotic cells out there. So very, very unique and interesting group. Just to think about prokaryotic cells as well, they're the oldest type of cells. So they're like our first cells. They're smaller than eukaryotes, which makes sense because they can infect our cells. Single-celled, again, can be found living anywhere, and there's a huge push on if you should be taking probiotics or beneficial bacteria, and there's a big research out there about we really don't have an immune system. It's actually the bacteria that lives in our gut and our stomachs, and so by taking probiotics or bacteria that's beneficial for digesting different types of material we eat can actually help our immune system and prevent some other illnesses. But they're commonly found and they can again be helpful or hurtful, but these are the general shapes we see. We see a spherical shape or cosi, we see a rod shape or bacilli, in a spiral shape. So examples of the spherical, or they're the circular shape, it's our strep throat. And if you don't know what strep throat looks like, you may have gotten it. It's very common to get these white pus-like things living in the back of your tonsils. Food poisoning, not fun, but your body's really trying to do that homeostasis where it's trying to get rid of or expel as much of that bacteria as possible, and it comes out both ends in some cases. H. pylori is a very common one as well. For stomach ulcers. And if you're not familiar what a stomach ulcer is, it kind of looks like this. So if this is the inside of our stomach, what happens is sometimes the digestive juices, if we don't secrete enough mucus, or sometimes high stress can cause the bacteria to live in there longer and actually damage our intestinal lining. And then within that we get these divots, kind of like a big chunk was taken out and the bacteria grows there. So you can see that inflammation or that little hole, and that can be really painful. And if left untreated, it can lead to other issues. So oftentimes, you have to avoid more acidic foods. You have to think about a different diet for a while. And it is in a bacteria-caused illness, so antibiotics, which help kill these, right? Strep throat the same way. You probably got an antibiotic to destroy that life within there. Eukaryotes, okay, plant and animal. Again, I just wanted to bring in a bunch of different pictures, and if you notice in each picture, just regardless of if they're single-celled or multi-celled, we're looking at a nucleus in some way. So the other category that kind of talk about like these are all protists. Protists are really cool things that can be found in like pond water. Sometimes they are found in really polluted waters and can harm you that way. Like an amoeba could eat out your brain. Not good. Parameciums and Euglena is a cool one because it's kind of plant-like and it's kind of animal-like because it has chloroplast, but also can take in some other food. So either way, you can see there's multiple organelles, a lot more of them, and very diverse in this category, very diverse. So that's it. There's those major categories: prokaryote, eukaryote, viruses, which wouldn't fall into that because they also do not have a nucleus, so they would not be a eukaryote as well. So let's just mastery check, kind of summarize what we learned. And so things that you should be writing in your short paragraph is to describe and compare what is a virus, maybe an example, how are they different from prokaryotes and eukaryotes, is there anything similar with them? And in your description, again, maybe you use some of those key features that you saw. Or another way to do this, again, since we're comparing and contrasting, is making a 3-circle Venn diagram. So you could have in each big circle, virus, prokaryote, eukaryote. What do prokaryotes and eukaryotes have the same? Is there anything the same between a virus and every prokaryotes, or a virus and a eukaryote? What do they all have in common? If you can complete and put something in each one of those segments, you know that you have some mastery here. So thank you very much, and feel free to shoot me questions and spread this Fabiology video. Use the hashtag Fabiology. Let's get this going and start learning more about the wonderful world of biology and all the gross stuff that can get you sick. Thanks, guys.